Hello everyone, my name is Jewher Ilham. I am Uyghur. And for those of you who are watching this who are not familiar with who the Uyghurs are, Uyghur people are Turkic ethnic groups. We're about 15 to 20 million population, like around the world, and where majority of the Uyghur people live in west side of China. I call my motherland the Uyghur region. The Chinese government likes to call it Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, and many Uyghurs in the diaspora call it or refer to it as East Turkestan. And Uyghur people are predominantly Muslim, and we speak Uyghur language, which is a Turkic language. We practice, different religion from the Chinese majority of the Chinese population. We speak a different language. We have different culture and customs. We look different. And I came to the U.S. About a little over 12 years ago, at the age of 18. By accident. I wasn't planning to come to the US for a long term. I was only here for a couple of weeks, but my father was the one that was invited to teach at Indiana University as a visiting scholar for like a year or two, and it was only my winter break. But unfortunately, at the Beijing International Airport in 2013, the Chinese government prevented my father from leaving the country, and I was set on the plane by myself as a teenager. And that was the last time I ever saw my family again. My father was a renowned economist, Uyghur economist, and his name is Ilham Tohti. He was later sentenced to life in prison. He still remained in prison. He hasn't been allowed to be visited by my family. He's not allowed to read. He is not allowed to interact with us. In fact, one of his prison guards, what I've learned last year was that one of his prison guards were sentenced to 15 years in prison for even leaking information about his health condition and his treatment in prison for people around him. And so yeah, as a Uyghur, someone who is very proud of her heritage, her identity, I like to say this is actually relatively new to me, like being connected to my root and my identity is because before coming to the US, I did not have the freedom to practice my religion, nor understand my identity and my religion. I've touched the first copy of Quran in my life after coming to the US. I stepped foot in a masjid for the first time in my life after coming to the US. I listened to a recitation of the Quran with the explanation for the first time in my life after coming to the US without having to be without having to fear for being interrogated, arrested, or having different kinds of negative repercussions by the authorities. But that was my childhood. We had bugging devices in my home. We were house arrested for a month and separated from our friends and held incommunicado. That was a normality for me and a lot of the Uyghur intellectuals. But now the Chinese government is not only targeting the Uyghur intellectuals, but every Uyghur individual who might possibly not sinicized enough, which is like assimilated to a Han Chinese enough. So yeah, I became a human rights advocate because of my personal story. I would have to say that I was brainwashed to a point that I was oblivious to how my rights were taken away from us and how I made myself think that's the normality. For example, a little bit of example of when I was in middle school, when I got one of the highest grades in my class, I was picked by our teacher to stand in front of the class as an example. I thought what I was getting was a praise of hard work, and but what in fact I what I received was a very sugar-coated sarcasm and discrimination. So what happened was that the teacher started scolding, yelling at the rest of Chinese students in our class and said, look at Jewher. Even Jewher, an Uyghur, can get such high grades. What is your excuse? Uyghur people are not supposed to be smart, intelligent, hardworking. They're not supposed to be successful. If they're successful, oh, they're one of the good ones, and they're one of those exceptions. And that if anything went missing in my class, I would be the number one suspect. Even though we would have cameras, we have 24 hours camera surveillance in each classroom, by the way, which is also another red flag. And why would you need video surveillance cameras in middle school, elementary school, and high school classrooms? Every classroom we had that. But even though we had that, and it would take 5 minutes for the teacher to check at the security room, but the teacher would have first come talk to me first and ask me to confess my non-existent crime. And turnout would be other students, obviously, and but even they are proven wrong for the first time, second time, third time, such assumptions will still happen because I'm not Han Chinese like the rest of them. I am Uyghur. I couldn't point my fingers to it. I knew there was something wrong, but I only could, articulate it years and years after I got it into human rights field. Yeah. So if you're looking at a map, the Uyghur region is right next to Tibet, and it's right next to all the Central Asian countries. And it is actually, I call it the Uyghur region because I don't like to call it Xinjiang. Uyghur Autonomous Region. The Chinese government gave this name as Xinjiang, which literally means new territory, which is a very colonial term that it kept reminding everyone that we were occupied by China. It's a very strategic area for China because it is in the heart of Belt and Road Initiative, which connects China to more than 100 countries around the world via shipping lanes, gas pipelines, bus routes to be able to transfer goods. And especially because the Uyghur region is full of natural resources, as I mentioned earlier, from gas, gold, uranium, cotton, polysilicon, aluminum, and copper, and so many more, PVC. There's so many more that this is a strategic area to provide not only for rest of mainland China, but to the rest of the world as well. And China would like to gain full control of not only our land, but also our people. So first of all, it has a huge geopolitical value for China, so that the Chinese government needs to gain full control of the region. And second of all, people need to have justification of why they need to rip all your resources and why they need to abuse you. They need a perfect excuse. So by dehumanize you, by labeling you as less than animals, by making you less humane than the rest, then the Chinese government themselves can justify their actions towards why they have been exploiting the Uyghur people and the land itself, because Uyghur people are those backwards, barbaric nomads that don't know anything, that are not intelligent, that are in this remote area, that this area is so poor that they don't deserve any love, attention, and respect. So that's how I think that's another reason why the Chinese government would target the Uyghur people. And the third point is that not only Uyghur people have been targeted, but the Uyghur issue has been more prominent in the global stage is because of its geopolitical value and because of how, because the majority of the Uyghur people have been living in the Uyghur region. We have not been spread out like other ethnic groups, whether we're talking about, there are a total of 56 ethnic groups in China, but the rest of the ethnic groups have been spread out all over China. But the Uyghurs have been living in our homeland for hundreds of years, and we are very attached to our root and we're attached to our land. The Chinese government would like to detach us from our religion, our root, our culture, so we can be like rest of the ethnic groups, get spread out to rest of China. So we will no longer be entitled to our land, to our resources, and to our people, and to our identity. So slowly, what happens when you're spread out to the rest of the world or rest of China? You get assimilated easily because you get broken down easily. So you don't have a chance to build a community. You don't have a chance to practice your religion. You don't have a chance to, to preserve your language and culture. And that's what exactly what the Chinese government wants to do. There's also the anti-espionage law that passed, I think last year or a couple of years ago, and that you cannot say anything negative in China, and that you will even get a reward if someone reports your misbehavior. There's family pairing programs in the Uyghur region as well, where Chinese authorities, oftentimes men, are assigned to live in Uyghur family households. And so we were families. A lot of the time, the husbands have been sent to re-education camp, and only the wife and the children will be home. And the oftentimes the Chinese authorities, oftentimes men, and they would be assigned for the family pairing program. They have to be sleeping on the same bed, eat together, live together, and that their job is to not only spy on you, to surveil you, but also to intrude every aspect of your privacy, and to also assimilate you, to force you to be adapted to their habits, and you will have to do anything they say. One survivor that we have interviewed and that we have included her testimony in our documentary film, that she had testified that in the family pairing program, she and her husband had to host this Chinese male authority, and he would strip down naked while eating dinner and ask everyone else to follow them, and would ask to all sleep together, and he would complain, why don't you sleep with me, it's in the policy. And she would try to find excuses and try to say, oh, you boys snore, I never even sleep with my husband, you boys share a room, I will try to, sleep in another room. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't. But isn't that a type of sexual harassment? And at least for this lady, her husband was there present. And there are cases of Uyghur women who don't have any male or any family members even living in the household. What happens to them behind the doors? I can't imagine. I now work for a DC nonprofit organization. It's a labor rights watchdog. It's called Worker Rights Consortium. We operate in 24 countries around the world, focused on the labor rights violations in the mainly focus on garment industries. And my role is to tackle the forced labor issue, especially the Uyghur forced labor issue, in my at my organization. And over the last 5 years, we have advised corporations to be more transparent on their supply chains, and to improve their conditions in their factories, and to basically treat their workers with dignity and pay what the workers deserve. So that's what our organization would usually do. We really think corporations, no matter where they're from, no matter what industry they're from, they should apply a single global standard in all their market goods, no matter what country they're sourcing in or they're manufacturing in. So instead of being hypocritical, say, hey, we care about Uyghur forced labor in the US, all those corporations should also care about Uyghur human rights, Uyghur labor rights when it comes to their markets in Korea, their markets in Japan, their markets in Canada, their markets in the UK. And we hope more and more countries around the world could pass such strong, robust labor laws that not only prevent Uyghur forced labor, but also all labor rights violations, hopefully. So I'm part of the Coalition to End Uyghur Forced Labor. It's a coalition of a very diverse group. We have a lot of churches. We have some Christian-based groups as well that have been really supportive of us. No matter what religion, it all teaches us to love and care for each other. And no matter what God it is, no matter what community it is, no matter what background, skin color, gender, I think what we all share is that we're all human beings and that we're all created equal and we are sent to this world to love each other. I think those are important subjects to be taught in school, in our households, and that it's important for all of us to be taught compassion and share compassion with each other. Other things is that, as I mentioned, I also have a documentary film. It is a great way for you to be able to bring it to your communities, whether it's your churches, your schools, from middle school, high school, colleges. Feel free to write to me on social media or on our website, allstatic and noise.com. You feel free to come request for a screening and bring the film to your community so more people can learn and not only hear it but also put faces to those stories. And so not only my story can be heard, but all these 300 people that we have interviewed and who have been involved in this film, their stories can be heard as well.
Come close, draw